You knew something was wrong the moment Caitlin Clark winced. It was the third quarter, a hard-fought game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun. The atmosphere was electric, but tense. The Fever had momentum. Clark had just dropped a no-look dime to Aliyah Boston. Then, bam, everything stopped. On a seemingly routine defensive play, Jacy Sheldon came in with an aggressive closeout knee first and made direct contact with Clark's groin. No whistle, no review, not even a flinch from the refs. But Clark went down and stayed down. At first, it looked like she might shake it off, but then came the limping, the pain grimace, the tight jaw, and finally, the most jarring sight of all, Caitlin Clark holding back tears on national television. For a player who rarely shows emotion outside of her fire and swagger on the court, this was different. This was deeper. This wasn't just a bump. It looked like the re-injury of something serious, something she'd only just recovered from. And just like that, the All-Star game, the one meant to be Clark's coronation, suddenly hung in the balance. How did we get here? Let's break it down. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. This wasn't Clark's first run-in with a groin injury. In fact, she'd already missed 10 games earlier in the season nursing what the Fever initially called tightness, before finally admitting it was a groin strain. But even that admission came weeks late, and without any clarity about timeline, severity, or risk of recurrence. And yet, barely 2 weeks later, Clark was back on the floor. Why? Some say pressure from the league. Some say pressure from the team. Some say Clark herself pushed the play. But regardless of who made the call, the outcome now seems tragically predictable. Injuries like this aren't like a rolled ankle. Groin strains are deceptive. The pain comes and goes. One day you feel fine. The next you can't lift your leg. And if you come back too early, that's when the damage becomes chronic. And let's be honest, the Fever haven't exactly been the blueprint for injury management this season. Team staff kept calling Clark's injury minor. Head coach Stephanie White went so far as to say it was nothing serious, and that Clark was good to go after just 2 practices. That same week, she played 36 minutes. It's almost as if no one was thinking long-term. Meanwhile, Jacy Sheldon's role in this situation can't be ignored. The play wasn't a normal basketball movement. It was reckless. Her knee was high, her arms flailed, and there was no intent to make a clean contest. Was it malicious? That's up for debate. But it was definitely dangerous. And the worst part? The referees didn't even blink. That non-call ignited a firestorm. Clark's brother took to Twitter. Fans erupted in comment sections. Former players called it disgusting. Analysts questioned why the league's biggest star isn't being protected the way superstars usually are. This wasn't an isolated incident. If you've been watching closely, you know Clark has been the target of borderline flagrant plays all season. Body checks, hip bumps, late hits, cheap shots after the whistle. And rarely, if ever, does she get the whistle. Some call it rookie treatment. Some say it's the price of stardom. But when a player's health is on the line, those excuses don't fly. Where's the accountability? The WNBA claims to be a league that supports its stars, that champions women's sports, that protects its players. But when the face of your league is limping off the court in pain, again, because refs swallow their whistles and opponents cross a line, that messaging falls apart. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's office has yet to comment directly on the Sheldon incident. No fine, no suspension, no clarification, just silence. And that silence is speaking volumes. This is more than just one moment. This is about the culture of the league. When did it become acceptable for players to be battered with no consequences? And let's not forget what's really at stake here. Caitlin Clark isn't just any player. She's the ticket sales, the jersey revenue, the broadcast bump, the highlight machine. Her presence has single-handedly transformed the WNBA's visibility this year. And now, that same player might be watching the All-Star game, the one in her own city, from the bench in sweats. Let that sink in. The league's biggest moment of the season might happen without its biggest star. And it won't be because she rested. It'll be because she was broken. The emotional toll is just as heartbreaking. Clark isn't just hurting physically. You can see it in her face. She's exhausted, not just from the pain, but from the pressure, from the hits, from the constant spotlight, from carrying a team that hasn't protected her. After the game, Clark didn't speak to media. No post-game quotes. No locker room interviews. Just a statement from a Fever's PR team saying she was day to day. That's it. Fans, especially younger ones who idolize Clark, are left worried, not just for her availability, but for her well-being. And it's not like this is happening in a vacuum. The Liberty have been watching. So have the Aces. So have every other team that would kill to build around a star like Clark with proper medical support, spacing, and a real offensive system. If this pattern continues, if the hits keep coming, the refs keep swallowing their whistles, and the Fever keep rushing her back, then don't be surprised the unthinkable becomes inevitable. Clark could walk, whether it's via a trade demand, free agency down the line, or simply stepping away to protect her body. There are limits to what even the toughest athletes can endure, and fans will follow her. So will sponsors. So will the story. Because this isn't just about basketball. This is about how you treat your stars. It's about whether a league is willing to evolve, whether it can hold referees accountable, whether it can provide elite-level medical care, and listen to players instead of overriding them. The WNBA has a choice. Do nothing and watch this golden opportunity slip away. Or take action. Reprimand reckless players, elevate referee standards, and prioritize star health over short-term wins. Because if Caitlin Clark's body gives out on national TV one more time, there won't be any narrative left to salvage. And maybe the real tragedy here is that this moment was supposed to be hers. An all-star game, in her city, with her fans, her jersey, her legacy being built brick by brick. Instead, it might end with a limp. And that's not just bad basketball. That's bad business. So if you're a fan, speak up. If you're a league executive, pay attention. And if you're a player, protect each other. Because stars like Caitlin Clark don't come around often. And if the WNBA lets her break, it may not recover. And now we arrive at the part no one wants to say out loud. But everyone's been thinking, what if this league just isn't ready for Caitlin Clark? It's a tough question. One that's uncomfortable. One that challenges a narrative we've all been sold. That women's basketball is finally having its moment. That Caitlin Clark is its crown jewel, and that the WNBA is prepared to carry the spotlight. But after the groin shot, the silence, and the backlash, not just against the league, but even against Clark herself, the cracks are impossible to ignore. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The resentment from players, from fans, from corners of the media. There's been this undertone throughout Clark's rookie season. Like she didn't earn her fame. Like she hasn't paid her dues. Like she's just another social media darling who got lucky. And that resentment has morphed into something uglier. Indifference when she's hurt, criticism when she struggles, and silence when she's wronged. But make no mistake, Caitlin Clark didn't ask for any of this. She didn't beg for ESPN coverage. She didn't demand to be the face of the league. She earned it by grinding, by performing, by lighting up college basketball and making people care. And now that she's in the WNBA, it seems like the system doesn't know how to protect her or support her. And it's not just a groin shot. That was the tipping point. This goes back to how she's officiated, how she's defended, how she's portrayed. Other rookies get a grace period. Clark gets flagged as overhyped. Other players get praised for being fiery. Clark gets called entitled. Other stars get plays built around them. Clark gets shoved off ball and told to adjust. It's exhausting to watch. So imagine how it feels to live it. And here's where things get even messier, because this isn't just a Clark versus league problem. It's a Fever problem too. The truth is, there are players on that roster who never wanted her there. You can see it in the way they freeze her out, in the delayed passes, in the lack of help defense, in the weird glances after a big shot, like, we're really doing her thing again? Some of that's ego, some of it's fear, and some of it is just poor chemistry. But it all adds up to an uncomfortable reality. Caitlin Clark might be a franchise player on a team that doesn't want to be her franchise. That kind of tension can't survive a full season, let alone a career. And that's what makes the New York Liberty rumors so loud. Because over there, it's the opposite. Sabrina Ionescu was in Clark's shoes just a few years ago. She knows what it's like to carry expectations, to get bulldozed by defenders, to have every move dissected. But she also knows what it's like to have a franchise believe in her, to have teammates who trust her, coaches who build around her, a system that lets her thrive. And make no mistake, Sabrina and Caitlin like each other. There's mutual respect there, real recognition. When Clark picked Sabrina in the All-Star draft, it wasn't just a basketball decision. It was a signal, a nudge, and I see you. And maybe one day we run this thing together. Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello, she gets it too. She runs sets that open up shooters. She encourages fast-paced offense. She builds around player strengths, not her own ego. It's why the Liberty are contenders. It's why their stars stay stars. And maybe most importantly, it's why they become a place where players want to go. Meanwhile, back in Indiana, the walls are closing in. Stephanie White is still doing press conferences with vague injury updates, still calling physical games part of the league, still sidestepping questions about locker room chemistry. And all the while, the Fever keeps slipping in the standings and slipping out of Clark's good graces. What happens next? If you're the league, you better start thinking about that answer. Because this isn't just another injury report. It's a warning flare. Your most marketable star is on the brink, physically, mentally, emotionally. And the fan base is watching closely. If Clark misses the All-Star game in her hometown, that's not just a headline. That's a disaster. That a once-in-a-lifetime celebration turned into a cautionary tale. And if she plays hurt, even worse. Because then it's the WNBA forcing a broken player to perform for the cameras. Then it's a league choosing image over integrity. And that's not a good look. Let's zoom out even further. What kind of message does this send to future rookies? What if Juju Watkins is watching this unfold? Or Paige Buchers? What are they supposed to think when they see Clark get flattened, ignored, and left limping while the league shrugs it off? This moment could impact more than one career. It could impact the next generation's decision to even come here. Meanwhile, players like Jacy Sheldon face no real consequences. She'll play next week, start next game, maybe even get cheered for playing tough. And Clark? She might be in rehab again. Or worse, second-guessing if this league was ever built to protect her in the first place. It's not too late. There's still time to fix this. Start by suspending Sheldon. Send a message that reckless contact won't be tolerated, especially not when it injures players already recovering. Next, elevate officiating standards. Give your refs training, tools, support. Let them know that letting stuff go for the sake of physicality is hurting your product, not helping it. Then turn inward. Look at your medical protocols. Ask why Clark was back on court so soon, why she played so many minutes, why no one spoke up when she winced during warm-ups. Because if you don't address that now, it'll happen again. And next time, it might be even worse. And finally, get serious about building teams that support their stars. If Indiana can't evolve, move Clark somewhere that can. Protect her legacy. Protect the league's investment. Because whether fans love her, hate her, or still don't know how to feel about her, there's one thing they can all agree on. She matters. She's the reason for the sold-out crowds, the viral highlights, the crossover appeal. She's the story. And if the WNBA can't keep her healthy, can't keep her safe, and can't keep her happy, then maybe the WNBA isn't ready for the spotlight she brings. But the fans are. They're showing up, buying tickets, wearing jerseys, watching interviews, posting clips, standing up when she hits from the logo. They've done their part. Now it's the league's turn. No more groin shots. No more ignored fouls. No more silence. Protect your star or risk losing her. And once she's gone, don't say you weren't warned. If the first half of Caitlin Clark's rookie season was about making history, the second half is quickly becoming about damage control. The hype was always unsustainable, ESPN specials, courtside celebrities, sold-out arenas before she even laced up her sneakers. But what no one really prepared for was what would happen if the league couldn't meet her where she was. What if the WNBA, despite its best intentions, just wasn't built to absorb a generational star at this velocity? And now here we are. The All-Star game hangs in the balance. Clark's health is uncertain, and the Fever's front office is spinning in every direction, trying to do what they should have done months ago. Course correct. Internally, that means asking hard questions. Why wasn't Clark given more rest after her first injury? Why did Stephanie White push for increased minutes instead of easing her back into rotation? Why is the team's offensive system still built around motion sets that minimize her playmaking? And more importantly, can this be salvaged? Because at this point, it's not just about winning games. It's about retaining Caitlin Clark. There are whispers, now louder than ever, that Clark's camp is exploring other options, not just in terms of free agency years down the line, but more urgently through advocacy and pressure behind the scenes. The kind of pressure that forces an organization to reevaluate coaching, medical staffing, even ownership priorities. The Indiana Fever were handed a rare gift, a marketable superstar with a fan base that could have revitalized the franchise for a decade. But that window is shrinking fast. Because here's what people forget. Superstars don't just need to be celebrated. They need to be supported. They need infrastructure, vision, a plan. When you look at organizations like the Las Vegas Aces or the New York Liberty, you don't just see talent. You see alignment. From the GM to the water boy, everyone knows who the star is, how they play, and what the system should be doing to elevate them. There's no ego, no confusion, no delay. Indiana, by contrast, has felt reactive from the start. They drafted Clark with no plan for how she'd fit into the system, no backup point guard to relieve her when she needed rest, and no clarity on whether they were building around her or just hoping she could fix their years-long dysfunction. And now, with every injury scare and every awkward post-game press conference, Clark looks less like a centerpiece and more like a Band-Aid. You can feel it in her body language. Less joy, less communication with teammates. That fire she usually plays with, it's dimmed, not extinguished, but definitely dulled by the weight of being everything for a team that's giving her almost nothing in return. Even her relationship with Stephanie White has reached a critical point. Multiple sideline interactions have turned icy, with White visibly frustrated when Clark deviates from called plays, and Clark visibly tuning her out during huddles. It's not a blow-up situation, yet, but it's a kind of slow-burn fracture that's impossible to ignore. At this point, even if Clark returns in time for the All-Star game, it'll be under a cloud, her hometown moment, the celebration that should have marked her arrival as the WNBA's biggest draw. Could instead be a reluctant appearance, or worse, a no-show due to injury. And the implications of that? Massive. Sponsors, broadcasters, fans who traveled thousands of miles just to see her in person. All of it tied to one player's availability. That a level of pressure no rookie should have to carry, especially not while managing pain, fatigue, and increasingly visible burnout. So what's the solution? It starts with the Fever getting real. They need to sit down with Clark. Not just for a standard, how are you feeling, meeting, but a real, unfiltered conversation about what she needs to succeed, who she trusts, what kind of offense she wants to run, what her goals are, not just for this season, but for her career, and then make changes accordingly. If that means reducing Stephanie White's power over play calling, do it. If that means hiring a new strength and conditioning staff in the offseason, get it done. If that means reshuffling the roster, trading away pieces that don't fit, and bringing in players who can keep up with Clark's tempo, absolutely necessary. Because if they don't, someone else will. The Liberty are already laying groundwork. So are the Aces. And if expansion teams enter the league in the next 2 years, don't think for a second they won't make Clark their number one target. The reality is, loyalty in sports is only as strong as opportunity. And right now, Clark is staring at a roster that limits her, a coach that doesn't empower her, and a front office that seems more reactive than proactive. The clock is ticking, and fans know it. Every game brings more analysis, more debates, more split-screen comparisons of Clark's usage rate versus other stars. Every missed call by refs adds another layer of resentment. Every social media clip showing her wincing in pain, limping, or shrugging off teammates becomes a conversation starter. The league is under a microscope, and while attention is great, scrutiny without action can be toxic. That's what makes the next few weeks so pivotal. Not just for Clark, not just for Indiana, but for the WNBA as a whole. Because what happens if she does sit out the All-Star game? What happens if she tells reporters that she doesn't feel safe? What happens if she takes a mental health break? One the league can't spin into a feel-good story. Suddenly, all those tweets about protecting our players become hollow. All those commissioner statements about growing the game, empty PR. And don't forget, Clark isn't just any rookie. She's arguably the most scrutinized rookie in sports history. Her college career set records. Her transition to the pros sparked new media deals. Her presence alone doubled attendance in some arenas. She's not the future. She's now. If the WNBA fumbles this, it won't just be a missed opportunity. It'll be a scar the league carries for years. But here's the flip side. Get it right, and this becomes a turning point. The moment the league matured, when it stopped playing defense with its stars and started playing offense. There's still time. Fix the officiating. Set stricter guidelines for player safety. Ensure consistent punishment for dangerous plays. Build real medical teams for each franchise with specialists who understand the unique physiology of elite women athletes. And most importantly, protect your star players, not just from opponents, but from burnout, from being overused, from being caught in systems that don't serve them. Because Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be a savior. She asked to play basketball at the highest level with teammates who trust her, coaches who get her, and fans who cheer because they love the game, not just the hype. She's still here, still trying, still suiting up even when it hurts. But for how much longer? That answer depends on what happens next. In the Fever locker room, in league offices, in training rooms and boardrooms across the WNBA. Because a storm is coming, and Caitlin Clark is at the center of it.